Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. We're a little early today because I'm going to see Billy Stritch and Nicholas King tonight in my own backyard. I don't have to go and deal with traffic and tolls and parking and all the things that those of us who live outside of New York City have to deal with every time we go in to see a cabaret show. You know, the other day someone asked me if I have a routine before every show. And I said, yes, I sit down and I think about the process that it took every audience member to get to those seats because I want to make the focus on them and not on me. My nerves, whether or not the voice is going to be there, all those things that we artists will be talking about today. It's the grace that we have with what we bring to the table. And not only what we bring to the table, but what our audiences bring to the table. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We have a Broadway actress and professor on the show. We have two cabaret artists. We're going to be talking about Southern decadence. If you don't know what that is, you're going to find out. I have a new friend on the show that I met through LinkedIn, so that does work out there. And hopefully, Charles Kirsch will get here as well. If he's watching somewhere, Charles, I hope you make it before the end of the show. We're going to be talking about the things that you've got coming up. But no one knows who I'm going to bring up first, but I do. And I'm going to bring on our very first guest, and that's MEG BUSSERT. How are you, MEG?
I am fine, Richard. How are you?
I am doing great. First of all, it's so great to have you on the show again. This is the first time you've done this format.
Correct.
But I want to ask you, who or what are you celebrating today?
Oh, I am celebrating my grandchildren, I think. I think I celebrate them today. I was thinking this morning, my son has two, 18 months old and like 8 weeks, and everybody's happy and healthy. And my daughter has a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and everybody is happy and healthy. And they weren't easy children to raise, I must say.
Yours or the grandchildren?
Both of them. Both of my children. I had doubts, and raising kids in showbiz ain't an easy thing, but they are wonderful. I am just very, very happy.
Well, talk about grace. I mean, raising children in this profession. I mean, and I can't even imagine what it's like now. We were talking a little bit earlier, David, who's on the show, was talking about what the process used to be of going to auditions and seeing everything. Now, everything pretty much is done online as far as auditions, sending things out, and you never know, as David said, if anyone even sees it. I don't like that aspect of the business. And I love that human connection that we all had as artists waiting to go into the audition, seeing the same people, seeing sometimes the same people getting the roles that we thought were ideally ours, or sometimes we getting the roles that they thought were theirs. You mentioned your children and your grandchildren. I want to go back a little bit. And I think I asked you this question before, but I like to go back to the 5-year-old self. Imagine yourself again at 5 years old. Were you even thinking of a career or a world in the theater or that aspect of it? Or did it even play into your realm at that time?
I grew up in Illinois, outside Chicago. I was the oldest of 7, but at 5, there was only 2 of us. One on the way then, that would have been 3. My father was in World War II, but he loved big band and he loved Broadway. He saw a lot of Broadway. So we had the vinyl. I learned, not all at 5, but they were playing all the time. When Disney came out, all the vinyl was playing and you learned every single song. I mean, my brother and I had a game. If you had to hear it 3 times, you lost. So we learned, the music was around all the time. So it wasn't a choice. I didn't know anything about theater, who knew? But art, if it was music and dance and theater, when we were 13, when we saw our first show in Chicago. But no, it just was, music was part of life though. We all had to take piano, but Broadway, stage work, no, not till high school.
Well, do you know what that light bulb moment was for you when you said, this is the path I'm on? this is the path I'm going to pursue?
I was in high school and kept getting auditioning for the chorus and kept getting the lead roles. And I go, what is this all about? And I could sing all of Julie Andrews stuff and everything else, but that was just because I was mimicking. I had no idea what I was producing. But I told my, we had a speech teacher there, and he did all the directing, and I said, I want to do this. And he said, oh, it's a hard thing. It's a very hard thing. I said, I'm going to do this, and we had a Kiss Me Kate was our senior year, and Erie Crown Theater every summer would honor high schools that would do musicals. So I was doing Kate, and the version, a very cleaned up version, I must say. And we presented it one night at the Erie Crown Theater. And I remember walking out on stage with Mr. Chastain, and we looked at that huge audience, and he just said, I want you to look at this because you'll never see this again.
Famous last words.
And I didn't fight that. I just said, oh, I agree. And I looked at that. And then, years later, actually, I was playing the Erie Crown with Dick Van Dyke and the Music Man. So I said, I remembered that moment. I thanked him. Thank you, Mr.
That's moment. And do any of your children or grandchildren, are you seeing, was there any desire to follow in your footsteps?
Not in my footsteps, but dance and music for my daughter very much. My son was a drummer. I mean, baseball and drums, that was high school. And, but I think growing up as a kid of, we struggled whether we were successful or not. We were always working to the next audition for the next show. And can we do it with the family and all of that? So it was hard, but they made other choices, but they've all, retained the music. And my 7-year-old granddaughter cannot stop singing. So we'll see.
And I want to let everyone know before we bring our next guest on that you're going to be at 54 Below on August 4th with Peter Felicia.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the show?
Yes, Peter is a critic and a writer of musical theater history and all sorts of things, and he tells wonderful tales. And he will have several of us come in and sing songs. I will be there. Karen Mason will be there. Who else is going to be on it? Oh, there's a whole bunch of people, and everyone is going to come in and sing a song after a wonderful, entertaining tale that Peter will tell. And Michael Levine will be accompanying all of us.
Michael is going to be on the show on Tuesday. We're doing a special pop-up show because, unfortunately, I won't be in town for your show. I'm going to be in Provincetown.
But you'll be doing your own.
Do you have Peter Felicia's calendar, a song for every day?
No, I don't.
It is great. I recommend this. There's a plug. I don't get anything in return for this. But every morning I get up. It's called a show tune for today. And I ask my device, I'm not going to mention the name, to play that song. And then an entire mix of songs happens. I don't even think that he knows what he created. But it's how I start every day. And
I'm going to tell him that. I will tell him that.
Yes, that's great. Now, I want to ask you before we bring on our next guest, how do you personally define grace in the context of your artistic life or your creative process? Is it ease? Is it kindness, forgiveness, something else?
For me, I always thought of it as movement. When I was a young, period actor, that's what the grace of movement was always important. But I've come to understand it more as respect, as your connections that we moaned about not having as young people in theater. The connection, individual people, whatever the issue might be, but having someone there to talk with, to nicely argue with, having grace is a connection, and it's respect. We must listen and talk and communicate with respect and just honor the other person's existence in the art, I think. And
that's a great answer. Meg, we're going to bring on our next guest. Actually, you're going to help me bring on our next guest. Think of yourself as Monty Hall. So door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
Door number 3.
And this is my new friend, Yolanda Noli. I'm so excited that she's here today. She was scheduled to be here last week, and unfortunately, she was not able to make it to the show. Yolanda, you are muted, so thank you. So, Yolanda, who or what are you celebrating today?
I am celebrating the lovely history of Broadway. It's I you know I just I have a humongous appreciation for theater, for theatrical actors, for the cabaret, because you have so much that you're giving to each and every audience every single night. And you give it all. You give it your all every single time. And that's what I'm celebrating.
Well, thank you for that. And I want to ask you, I mean, you have your hand in so many pots, so to speak. You wear so many hats. You're a producer, you're an entrepreneur, you're a singer yourself. You have a podcast, you do all these things. Out of all the hats that you wear, which one do you feel that you wear the most comfortably?
Very good question.
Hmm.
So, well, I think I inhabit sort of a collage of like the play like the play
Mm-hmm.
with I think it's the man with the coat of many colors. I
Mm-hmm.
sort of wear an array of hats of many colors. So I really have a true connection with each and every color within my hat.
That's great. And do you have something that you want to promote today before we bring on the next guest?
Yes, yes, I do. I do. I would love to promote a documentary film that will be released on August 5th. It is a brand documentary, and I think it's going to be a very, very interesting take on each and every intricate life that is being
No.
spoken in within that documentary.
And I think one of the lives that's celebrated in that documentary is you. Am I right?
Yes, yes, I am. Amongst others that I truly appreciate working with as well.
Well, that's great. We're going to bring on our next guest in just a moment, but I want to ask you if you can recall a moment when you were extended grace in your artistic journey, and how did that shape you?
Uh, you ask such great questions.
Thank you.
You do. So I would say, as a podcaster, when an episode derails, I allow myself I allow myself to pivot on air and celebrating mistakes as opportunities for fresh conversations.
Oh,
And I
good.
celebrate.
Great.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to bring on, speaking of fresh conversations, we're going to bring on our next guest. So choose door number one or door number two.
Door number two.
Okay. And this is Cynthia Shaw. And Cynthia Shaw has, I mean, she's very, very busy herself. She has two projects coming up that I will talk about right now. She, first of all, is doing Harold and Judith 1995. And she will be performing August 9th, August 13th, August 16th. This is part of a fringe festival. Am I correct, Cynthia?
I don't think it's a fringe. I think it's a short play festival that the Gene Frankel Theater is starting. It's their first short play festival that they've
Oh,
done.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful. And in addition to that, so speaking of so many colors that Yolanda just spoke about, Tuesday, September 30th, I have my tickets. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see you there and see you
Thank you.
live. Besides what I just shared, who or what are you celebrating today?
Well, it's funny. It's so interesting, like seeing what Meg and Yolanda said. I was like, oh no, I have to think about whatever it is that I would be celebrating. And I have to say that I'm trained as a classical pianist, and so my job is to teach piano lessons. I teach piano lessons to adults. So I taught 2 lessons today, and I have to say that when I teach my lessons to my students, like the joy of being with them and sharing music with them, but also discovery and sort of the for me the funness of playing the piano and yet trying to figure out how to work through this and work through that and all of that. I feel very fulfilled after each lesson, every single one, and even sometimes my students will say to me, and they're adults, so I don't have any kids, just adults, and they'll say to me, don't you get bored listening to that same song over and over and again? And I'm like, actually, no, I never get bored. And I don't know what that's all about, but for me, each time it's like a new discovery. So I think it's about discovery. And it's also about the person, because like I try to figure out like what's going on, what's happening with them, anyway. So yeah, so that's, I could talk
Well,
about
Meg, you're a professor. You also teach. And as an actress, Carol Channing was often asked, don't you get bored doing the same show every time? And she said, absolutely not, because every experience was a new experience. And I always feel walking on stage in front of an audience that you never know the energy that audience is bringing you that night. Right. And it, of course, affects you. So anything that you would like to say along the lines of what Cynthia just said?
Oh, I totally agree. There's something about teaching, and teaching something that that old adage, if you can't do, teach, which is
yes.
What? It's like what?
Yeah. But it's I think for me, I had to pull back on certain experiences I had because they were nowhere near that, as far as teaching acting to singers, which I was basically doing for almost 20 years at NYU in music. But every kid they come with that desire, that dream, that somewhere in their art, they know they're an artist, they're trying to figure so many things out. And I think it's an honor, and it really is. And that respect thing that I talked about, you've got to respect your students. And as you were saying, Cynthia, that they can't play the same song the same way. It would never happen.
No.
And so
it never happens. It never happens.
And that's all great. So I want you all to fasten your seatbelts because we're going to take a complete change of pace in just a moment. But before we do, Cynthia, I'd like to ask, what role does voice play when facing rejection and criticism or creative blocks when it comes to your work?
What a good question. And I think it's a subject that, for me at least, has developed over the years. Right. The answer to that is In fact, it's funny that you say that, because just today I was walking home and I was thinking about, because I'm doing these plays, and I was thinking about how like you learn your lines as best you can and you're in front of an audience and all that stuff. And it's easy for that to be a little nerve-wracking. But I realized, I was like, no, I have to just do my job. Like, I just have to learn my lines as best I can, except that, things are going to happen. Somebody's not going to be where they said they would be, or, on stage or whatever. So to me, that's all part of the of the idea of rejection, because honestly, I don't think it's rejection at all. I think it's really allowing yourself to understand, like you said at the beginning, sometimes I get a role, sometimes somebody else gets the role, right? I did an audition. They said when I walked in, I was the exact right person, right? I did another audition and I thought, I think it's really great, but I don't know. That's not what the director thinks. But it's like when you go to a bunch of auditions and you go into the room, or not the room, the waiting, and there's all these people and you see them at every single audition, right? And so for me, it's like, wow, one of us is going to get this job. And it might be me or it might not be me. And yet it's a celebration of the art of being able to perform, but also the art of being able to be with surrounded by this art, right? So that
Donna McKechnie tells a great story that she saw in the paper once that they were looking for a Donna McKechnie type.
Yes.
Do you know the story? And
No.
she auditioned and didn't get the part. So, ladies, I want you to fasten your seatbelt. I am so excited to bring on this next show. this next artist. He is, I mean, talk about artistic freedom on stage. I think he goes to places that I can guarantee you none of us have ever gone on stage. So we'll talk about his show in just a moment, but here he is, David Rhodes.
So I want to warn you, laddie, though I know you're perfectly swell, that your heart belongs to daddy, 'cause your daddy, he treats you so.
Amazing.
So David is going to be performing down in New Orleans at Southern Decadence,
Right.
which is, how would you describe David Rhodes to someone who has never heard of it? I know about Southern Decadence.
I think Southern Decadence would best be described as New Orleans Gay Pride Weekend. There's
to the 10th degree.
To the nth. There are parties, there is public drunkenness, which seems to be the call for order in New Orleans all the time, but particularly that weekend. And it's just a celebration of gayness, I guess.
Well, I want to speak about someone who is not gay, who is in that video with you, and that's Tracy Stark, who, if those of us who've been lucky enough to work with Tracy, is just phenomenal. And what is the collaborative process for you? Go ahead.
Interestingly enough, the show was developed and music directed by Michael Ferrara. I also am on the staff at Cabaret Fest every summer. And one of the other artists that was supposed to perform was not able to come. So Patricia Fitzpatrick, who runs the festival, said, would you please come up and bring Daddy Issues, which was not meant to debut until Gay Pride Weekend here in New York. And Michael couldn't come. And Tracy learned the score on the train and played the show for me with 2 rehearsals, which is a testament to how amazing Tracy Stark is. I actually went up 3 weeks before it was supposed to debut, which was a great experience for me. You know, sometimes the lucky accidents happen when it's just pull up your panties and head for the footlights. Other things that you might not have discovered had you not had the opportunity. And Tracy was amazing that night. And the show was a huge success. And we went ahead and did it in New York to sold out crowds. And now we're selling out New Orleans. So
that is incredible. Congratulations, David. You know, it's when I first started in this business, the greatest piece of advice I think that I got just starting out was from KT Sullivan. And KT Sullivan said, have at least 5 people who know your show, so you're never at a loss. And there are moments where I've gotten a call when I've had a booking where my musical director says, I can't do this. Something's come up in my personal life. And you have to do a complete pivot on it.
That's right.
Did you panic when you found out that your musical director was not able to do it? Or did you just, as you just said, pull up your panties and say, I need to do what I need to do?
Honestly, I was grateful to have the opportunity to showcase the show before the big New York premiere in a safe environment. I knew that Tracy would have my back. And it was a joy, actually. It was a joy.
Now, David, I want to ask you, because I was having a conversation with someone who's writing an article. Last night, Jeff Harner and Alex Raybeck performed in Palm Springs. And we were talking about the show. And I know for myself, being on the road, that it's a lot of work, because it's not just showing up and doing the show. It's all of the preparation and everything that needs to go into that. And I'm not necessarily talking about the artistic preparation, but as I say, I spend 95% of my time pursuing work. And then when I get the work, I spend the other 5% pursuing an audience.
Right. Well, this is the big shift that has happened in our industry over the past 20, 30 years. It used to be that the venue hired the artist, they paid the artist a salary, they put you up in a hotel, they did all your marketing for you, and you were treated like a celebrity. Nowadays, the rooms are all rental spaces, and you're
That's right.
split with the house, or you're paying a fee for the house, and it is contingent on the artist to bring in the audience. And many of us, myself included, it's not our forte, and it actually interferes with the creative process because
Wow.
so much energy is being put into. I mean, I literally, not to mention money, I literally just sent $200 worth of posters and postcards down to New Orleans for friends to put up in various venues and stuff to try and, build this audience. So yes, it has changed, and it's unfortunate, and it's expensive. You know, the adage, how do you make $1 million in cabaret? You start with 2 million.
That's true. Well, you know, it's interesting because I'm going to Provincetown next week, and Provincetown is a transient town. People are on vacation, and it's a matter of grabbing them the day of the show to say, I'm performing tonight. I hope that you'll come see me. And I say that I am at that place now that, you know, everything is either drag queen or it's twinks. And if you ladies don't know what that means, look it up. And I was talking to a marketing friend of mine. I said, how do I market myself in this climate? And she says, you have 46 years of experience. Let them know that. And that's what I go for. David, we're gonna play a little round robin game here, but I want to ask you, how do you practice grace toward yourself as a working artist in a result-driven world? When you get that booking, in a lot of instances, if you're lucky enough to sell out, and it's also, you're lucky that you've got friends down in the area that you're going to, that you can promote. But in a lot of instances, and it has nothing to do with what you've accomplished in this business or what you haven't accomplished, a lot of the venues will constantly remind you of how many tickets have sold, which is another layer on top of everything else that you're trying to do. How do you maintain your grace in the midst of all of that?
So I think that as artists, we have to ask ourselves an important question. Do we have something to say, or do we have something to show? And if you have something to say, then you are compelled to communicate that and tell your story, whether it's to 5 people or 5,000 people. Mm-hmm. And all of my work is based on sharing what it is that I have to say, which is a lot to do with celebrating my family, celebrating my blended family, celebrating my sexuality and my role as a husband and a father, edifying people about what it was like to be gay at a time when it was illegal and you could be thrown in jail, not to mention you could die from having a lover. And because I have these things that I feel like I need to say to my work, through my work, that supersedes the ego-driven, what I need to show, the attention I get back. I am so blessed that at 65, I am still an artist. I still have things to learn. I have humility. I make mistakes. On some level, I feel like if I did have celebrity status, that process might have been arrested, because I would be so busy trying to maintain that celebrity status and showing everybody that I'm valid. Nobody is validating me except myself and the 5 to 5,000 people who happen to be in the audience on that given night. Let's hope it's 5,000 people.
I hope that it is too. And David, I'm breathing down your neck. 65 is right around the corner for me.
I feel you.
Well, you both look absolutely fantastic. Oh my gosh.
Then I developed this show, in addition to the fact that I am a husband and a father and someone's father. And there is this very strange phenomenon in the gay community, which I did not anticipate when I came out at 45 with a wife and a child, of this sort of daddy issues dynamic between younger and older men, which has been literally been going on since the beginning of time. You know,
right.
We talk about Patroclus. You know, we can go all the way back. But also, I think we live in such an ageist society that I want to be the gay Jane Fonda. I want to celebrate my sexuality. I want people to enjoy my body, to know that I'm still a vital virile and exciting part of our culture. And so that's something else I want to say. You know, I want to say I'm not dead.
Yes.
And that 65 is sexy.
Well,
as you are attesting to it, all of you. You know.
Well, thank you for that. Meg, in your experience, what does it look like to show grace to collaborators, castmates, or creative teams, especially under pressure?
What does it look like? It's again, I go back to respect. I can't work on the word grace, you know, quite that way. But if I need something or they need something, it's the respect of, you know, the discussion and how to get there, and can I do it without assistance, or is it something involved in the story, or what?
Are you one in your profession to ask for what you need, or is that something that you've learned to do as you've gotten older in this profession?
Definitely something I learned to do, and I was taught by Dick Van Dyke and the Man of La Mancha. Give me his name. Oh shit.
Richard Kiley.
Thank you. Richard Kiley. We did South Pacific together, and both of those gentlemen were so caring because they were the names doing out all of that stuff, and I had my ideas and I worked very well with them, but it was always kind of the struggle. She's the girl, you know, that kind of thing. And both of them, you know, at different times in the shows took me aside and said, you know, you need to ask for this. No one's going to do it for you. You know, you're just going to have to go to the stage manager or, you know, call your agent or do something. And this, you're going to just have, you know, and I said, but I don't want to make any trouble. And, you know, as Dickie says, you're not making any trouble. They're not going to know. They know. And so I think that was, then I began to watch, and I worked with a couple very difficult people, and I watched how they manipulated, and that's what I didn't want to do, to manipulate.
Right.
Richard, can I chime in here? When I was 5 years old, my parents took me to the original Broadway production of Man of La Mancha with Richard Kiley. And when those stairs descended from the ceiling, I swore all of medieval Spain. My space. And that was the moment at 5 years old that I fell in love with the theater. And I am 65 and still dreaming that impossible.
Oh, that's great.
Thanks to Richard Kiley and his beautiful performance.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Meg, I wanted to talk about another side of that. After Linda Lavin, unfortunately, passed away this past year, I went down a rabbit hole watching these old interviews with her. And there's a great interview with her and Mo Rocca on CBS Sunday Morning. It's on YouTube. Everyone go and look at it. But she said during COVID, she saw that the Broadway community was doing a tribute to Stephen Sondheim. And for those who don't know, she introduced the song The Girl From, which is a parody of The Boy from Ipanema, and from the Mad Show. And so she reached out to those that are in charge, and she said, how would you like to have the original girl singer come back and do this song as part of your COVID podcast? And they, of course, jumped at the chance. And she said she learned in her life, and this is a lesson that I've taken from her, she learned that in this business, she said people either thought she was too busy, she was not interested, or they could not afford her. And she said every great opportunity that came her way was because she reached out for the brass ring. So we have to ask for those things that we want and require and need in this profession. Yolanda, have you ever had to walk away from a project or an opportunity in order to preserve your inner peace or integrity? And how did the grace factor into that? I know that sounds redundant. How did the grace factor into that process for you?
Yes, so always good questions. So, yes, I've had to walk away from a few, in my past, and so, I have so much respect for the craft, and when it comes to working and collaborating, and creating such a beautiful storytelling of something, I really relish it, and I relish it to the point where, if there's a niche in the story in it, or there's something that is delayed, or there's a bit of a contrast that's not relevant to something in particular in that moment, um, or office or back office, of course. I normally I try to have that conversation, and in a way where there's middle ground. But if there's no middle ground that can be founded, then I that's when I have to say, we've worked through the process, and now we must have we must we must change out of something to bring, so that to protect the project's relevancy. And if there's no possible way to do that, then I usually depart.
And sometimes I might add that process benefits the other party just as much as it benefits you, because they may be feeling the same frustration that you're feeling. I remember being cast in something once, and I was able to do it, but it wasn't me, and I fought that. And then the director saw me get up and sing at an open mic, and he said, "Why aren't you bringing that to the show?" And I said, "I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it." And he said, "Do you want to leave the show?" And I said, "Actually, I do, but I don't want to let anyone down." And he said, "We'll find somebody. I want you to be happy." And it was a mutual admiration moment where we both just moved on. Cynthia, do you think that grace and ambition can coexist in today's artistic landscape? And why or why not?
My answer is yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because first off, we all have ambition, right? I have ambition. I don't know where my ambition comes from. I have this drive inside of me that just keeps me doing, but it doesn't I don't know why anyone would think that ambition means that you're stepping all over people, or you're doing bad things to people or anything. To me, those two things don't go hand in hand. I mean, so yeah, to me, they're totally separate things, actually, grace and ambition. So ambition, absolutely, but you can be ambitious and still be loving and joyful and full and full of, I mean, I don't want to say respect for other people, because to me, that sort of sounds, I don't know, limiting. Mm-hmm. I think it's moreover like allowing these people into your life and just making things grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And if there are shortfalls or whatever, then either looking them over or trying to figure out, why is that troubling me or whatever. I mean, I tend to go inside of me, like, what did I do wrong? I sort of grew up that way. What did I do wrong? So no, I think ambition and grace can go hand in hand wonderfully.
That's great. And I've often wondered what it would be like to have no ambition, because my ambition consumes every waking moment of my life. I mean, I love the collaborative process. I love working with other people. And when I'm working with other creative artists, I mean, I could come on every Friday or whatever day I do this by myself and just talk for an hour. But this is what I love. I love minds coming together and being a part of that. Thank you for that answer.
Yeah, I have many. I'm still in touch with many of my high school friends from a gazillion years ago, and I'm constantly amazed. I have many friends. They're wonderful people. They're really smart, and they're like retired, and they like, people say to me, "When are you going to retire?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I mean, maybe in that sense, I am retired because but because I still have this churning thing inside of me that just keeps pushing me forward. So, the idea for me of, spending my day reading a book or spending my day, no.
Well, I remember years ago that a comedian said when they were looking for Osama bin Laden, send AARP to find them, because they will certainly find him. And I find that all the AARP things, and now, and David, maybe you're already there, I'm getting all of the things every day about Medicaid and Medicare and all of that in my mailbox.
I'm signed up. I'm signed up.
I have to jump in here. I'm 76.
I'm almost there.
Okay. I'm 76, and I retired, because that was the word, from teaching at NYU in 2020 before the COVID thing happened. It was all planned because I had a lot of work, old lady roles, all lined up, and they all went away with COVID. But it's the wrong word we're using. They're using. It's not retirement. You're stepping away from possibly something you don't want to do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking up too much time, and there are other things that you want to do. And sometimes it's acting out on things that you couldn't do because you had kids to raise, right?
Exactly.
But now that you can put your energies into something that's a little different, and it never turns out, as we all know, the way you want to, but it's still a part of storytelling. It's still a part of art. It's still a part of dealing with people, but it ain't retirement. You're not, Cynthia, don't you ever sit back and just.
Oh, no, I mean, honestly, I can't. It would be impossible for me. The day I die is the day I retire. And that's
me. We'll get sleep then.
The last trimester is the best.
I think
David.
the word is sabbatical. Sabbatical.
Yes, sabbatical is a good word. That's great. David, how do you recover from a performance or an interaction where you didn't lead with grace? And what's your reset strategy?
So one of my greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses is that I am never satisfied with my work or performance. So I always have to self-soothe afterwards and not focus on the one person that I didn't feel like I reached, or the one time that my voice cracked, or the moment that I went blank on stage. I love the creative process. I love rehearsals. I love collaborating. Performing is different. I would say when I'm rehearsing, I'm free, I'm in the zone, I'm having a great time. In performance, maybe if I'm lucky, I'm in the zone for 70, 80%, and the other 20% is, oh, am I in my light? Or, oh, should I cross here? Or, oh, how am I going to do this next moment? Or, oh, shit, I should have done this. And to not beat myself up over that 20%, and to focus on the 80%, or even if it's just 60%, because what gets you through, I went to school in England for 3 years in the English course at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. And one of my professors was Janet Sussman. And Janet Sussman said to us, darling, technique is what keeps the actor from falling off the stage. And so for the 60% that I didn't fall off the stage, I have to give myself grace, and say, well, at least for that time that I didn't feel like I was in the zone, I didn't humiliate myself. I didn't fall off the stage. The audience actually got what they want, even if I wasn't satisfied. So that's how I deal with it, to sort of soothe myself and say, you know what, you've got the technique. You didn't fall off the stage. Maybe you could have made a better choice here. Maybe it was more fun at dress rehearsal, but you got through it.
That's great. Start thinking of yourself as an entertainer and not a performer.
I like that.
Yes. I got that from Carol Channing. She once said that a seal is a performer. A seal is only interested in one thing, getting a fish. It will balance that ball on its nose. It will flap its fins. It will do whatever it needs to do to get that fish. And not once is that seal thinking about how the audience is responding. And she said, that's the difference between a performer and an entertainer.
I like that. And I will take that with me to New Orleans and probably beyond.
Yes, that's what gets me through. Meg, how can the performing arts help audiences experience grace, even if they don't consciously name it that?
Oh, yeah. It's all in the storytelling. It's the ability to tell the story that isn't your own, and they know that if they're in the theater, they know that. I'm not talking about film or you're in the same space. You're breathing, you're coughing, you're wheezing, you're doing everything else that they're doing. So I think that it's the storytelling, it's being in someone else's life, and the things, again, all of our students, every one of them is going to receive it in a different way. So there's not one way to receive anything. There's not one way to do any show, one way to do any role. We're all going to bring our stuff into it. And we do 8 a week, so it changes. And it changes. It changes. Did they get that joke? Did they applaud what happened? You know, so we're constantly, and you know, David, you can't possibly be in the zone when you're on stage in the moment. You have to be worried about the lights. You have to be you've got to be listening. Oh, something happened off stage. Oh, my guy didn't come in when he was supposed to. Oh, somebody's having a heart attack.
A fork just dropped.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that basically we are storytellers, and that's our power. And
that's great. I love that. Yolanda, if you could leave emerging artists with one piece of advice about cultivating grace in their craft and their career, what would that advice be?
Timeliness, I think. Timeliness. It really says a lot. Timeliness goes abound in life, in building relationships, building your, empowering your craft. Timeliness is a beautiful way to incorporate that in grace, because time really accelerates in grace.
That's great. That's perfect. Cynthia, what is the greatest piece of advice that you feel that you've received in this business?
Say the end of that.
The greatest piece of advice that you've received personally in this business.
Oh, so when I was taking acting classes at Terry Schreiber's studios, I remember Terry saying to me, after I did a scene or whatever, and I said to him, I never feel like I'm good enough, and I never feel like I'm ready. Sort of a theme of my life. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. And Terry said to me, you are good enough and you are ready. And I don't know why. I mean, maybe me actually being able to articulate this thing that was rambling around in my head for years and years and years, that was part of it. But when Terry answered me, I realized that what he had to say actually was true about me, that I was good enough and that I was ready. So I think that's the best advice I've actually ever gotten from somebody.
I love that. Wow, what a great thing to be told. And it probably was at the right moment in your life as well.
At the absolute right moment, right? Because I kept seeing all these younger actors in class, and they're all doing this and this and this and this. And here I am, older, and still feeling like, well, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Right? And he's like, no, you're ready. You have to do it. And sort of just breaking through that and trusting that was actually true. Because as long as I was holding on to I'm not ready, then I'm always this perpetual student. And I'm not saying that that we're not all students. Like, we continue learning, right? We're students of life. We continue learning. But there's this whole thing about sort of staying in the loop of I'm in acting class, and I would see it in people. They would be in class for years and years and years and years and years and never go on an audition, never go to a casting site, right? Never anything like that. So I'm like, yeah.
I love that. David, what do you think is the greatest piece of advice that you've given someone else in this business?
Oh, wow. I think that would be to not wait for permission to do the work, to create your own work, whatever that is, whether it's writing, whether it's a cabaret show, whether it's a journal, that we spend so much time in this business waiting for somebody else to give us permission to do the work. And in fact, all that we need to do the work is right here.
Absolutely. Great.
So yeah, always do your own work.
So I've had so much fun with all of you today, and I'm going to give each and every one of you a chance to have your final say today, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But before we get there, I want you to think about either a book, a television show, a performance. It could be anything that you've seen within the last week that you highly recommend and that you want to put out to everyone. And I'll start with that. I just saw a great documentary. It's on Netflix, and it's called Sunday Best. And it's the story of Ed Sullivan and how he broke color barriers with his show. There was so much I didn't know about him. He was born in Harlem, and he was constantly being told that Southern households would turn their TV sets off if he would bring certain artists on his show. And a lot of the artists that he brought in the show were seen by America. And we're talking about 25 million people watching on a Sunday night before anyone else had seen them. I also learned I'm going to give a spoiler, that I did not realize that when Barry Gordy started Motown Records, when the album, remember album covers, everyone? The album covers did not depict African-American artists because they would be pulled off the shelves in many record stores. And Barry Gordy and Ed Sullivan, Ed Sullivan didn't care. And he wrote articles. He was first and foremost a journalist. He wrote articles decrying segregation in this country. And just an incredible documentary that I want everyone to see. It's really great. Sunday Best about Ed Sullivan on Netflix. Check it out. Meg?
Okay, so Superman.
Love it.
Yeah, it took me back to my childhood, to not only the TV show, but all those cartoons. We had them, 7 kids, and that it was all over. But this approach, this telling of the story, Superman is a different character than the ones I had seen. He reminded me closer to what I had imagined when I read those magazines, when I read those, to me, he wasn't just out there doing good. He was just a really nice guy, and he was really like the guy next door. And he just wanted to, I was fascinated by the idea of the truth telling of being a reporter, and how, the things about him having to report his own interviews with himself. Anyway, but I think that the take on the film was very delightfully directed and allowed for many generations to come in and receive the story. I was delighted because it reminded me of my youth and all that innocence. And,
I love that. And that's what it should do. Yolanda.
So I'm thinking back, and I'm going to show my age. I like the frontier shows like Bonanza, and because in those days, you were permitted to, if you could stay on that piece of land and bear all, that would become your property. So that means bears, people invading. And that's why watching the show, you see a lot, they're going outside and they're carrying their rifles, to make sure that they, that they protect their land. This is their frontier. They braved through it. So, and that's their property. So, Bonanza really, gets you back to those days where you really relish everything you had. Your land, your home, your family, neighbors, if you had them, close to you. So, and, it really just takes you back to a time where things may have not been very easy, but you learned the sense of bonding, and it meant more to you than what we have today, where everything seems to be very easy to come by. And there's so many choices, but in those days, whatever they had, they relished and they kept dear to them. Bonanza.
That's great. Cynthia?
I wish I could be so profound as everyone else, but I'm not going to be. I recently watched, and it's still going on, this series on Netflix I think it's called Stick, about a golf pro whose life sort of falls apart, and I think it's called Stick. Anyway, with Owen Wilson and Mark Maron. And I actually love this show because the main character his life has fallen apart, and he finds this young kid who's a golf genius. And I'm not a golf person at all, but he finds this kid who's a golf genius, and he takes it upon himself to create a new world and to help this kid who's a teenager and a pain in the neck and arrogant, but not arrogant, and all of this stuff. But it feels very real to me, and it feels very like the kinds of struggles that people really go through in their own lives, trying to overcome this and that. And, and that the characters are consistent, but they're not consistent. So, which is what we have to deal with too in life also, right? People you think you know, and then, oh, you don't know, back and forth. Anyway, I find this show really inspirational. And I can hardly wait for the last couple of episodes. So
that's great. That's wonderful.
Wow.
And David?
Yeah, so last night I was at the Paramount Hotel on 46th Street. I had no idea that there was such a gorgeous venue in their lobby right there on 46th Street. And my dear friend Carly Glenn was debuting her album. And I was so proud of her, and she sung so beautifully, and her songwriting was so magnificent, and she's in the process of making that transition from musical theater to a recording artist. And I was just phenomenally proud of her and very happy to be in such an elegant environment and hearing a friend sing so beautifully and speaking her truth and singing. It's very simple. So Carly Glenn, if you want to check her out on Spotify, she's a lovely young lady. And
send me the information. I'll put it on YouTube as well.
I definitely will.
Thank you. So I want to thank you all. And like I said, I'm going to give you each a chance to have your final word today. I don't know what happened to Charles Kirsch. I hope you're okay wherever you are, Charles. But I do want to let everyone know, if you get a chance to go to 54 Below on Monday night, he has a phenomenal cast of artists, and they're going to be celebrating Wildcat. And if you don't know Charles Kirsch, he's this wonder kid who is absolutely amazing. His shows that he puts together are phenomenal. And if you can't get to 54 Below on Monday night, they're live streaming it, so you can purchase it. And I think, I may be mistaken, but I think you have 24 hours to see that. I also want to mention once again, that Harold and Judith 1995 will be, and it's not part of the Fringe Festival, it's the Short Story Festival. And also, as I said, I have tickets to see Cynthia Shaw. All of you that are in New York, join me. Let's make a night of it. Next Tuesday, I'm doing a very special pop-up show with KJ McElrath, Matthew Corazine, Michael Levine, Sue Matsuki, Athena Reich. I also want to mention that in 2 weeks, I will be in Provincetown. I'm doing both of my shows, Everything You Always Wanted to Know about Richard Skipper, but were afraid to ask. And I got a little teaser for that at the end of the show. And also, if you're going to be down in New Orleans, check out Daddy Issues. I also want to mention that on the 4th, Meg will be at 54 Below with Peter Felicia. And it's pouring rain right now. I hear it. Wow. I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your final word of the day, or phrase, or whatever it is that you want it to be. It could be about anything that we spoke about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final word that you want to leave everyone with today. And when I finish, I will turn it over to one of you. And then when you finish, you'll turn it over to the next person. And when the last person says goodbye, I will end with a little promo for my shows. And the message that I want to leave with everyone today, some of you may or may not know, I left social media at the end of February. It was a personal choice that I made for myself. It was the right choice for me. It may not be the right choice for everyone else. But since leaving Facebook and Instagram, I've made a point of reaching out to 3 people every day that I haven't spoken to in a while. And I know that for some people that may seem like a lot, but I have to tell you, these are people that have been a part of my journey, people who have attended my shows, some friends that I haven't spoken to in a few years. The shocking thing is that a lot of people have passed on that I wasn't even aware of until I made the effort to reach out to them. So when I say at the end of my show, and I throw a number out, today the number is 9, for each of you on the show and for everybody watching, go to your address book and reach out to that 9th person and let them know that they've made a difference in your life, because none of us are promised tomorrow. I've also heard from talking with a lot of people that people are dealing with challenges. The aging process is challenging for a lot of people. Life change episodes. I spoke with a friend today, without giving anything away, whose husband, they just got a divorce. And this was a couple that I thought was, from outside purposes, were very happily married. So people are going through life situations. And especially with what's going on in this world right now, reach out, touch somebody, by making that phone call. And I mean, not with an email, not with a text message, not a private inbox message if you're still on Facebook, a phone call, and let that person know that they've made a difference. I have a dear friend, Sean Moniger, and he says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. And with that, I'm going to leave the screen. And Meg, I'm going to turn it over to you. And when you finish, you will pick the next person, and so on. I will see you all next Tuesday. Have a good day.
Thank you.
So what I'd like to share, guys and gals here, is this right now. This is someone who I think is very graceful and full of grace. And I want to thank Richard. This is a Richard Skipper mug.
Yeah.
So there it is. So thank you, Richard. Delightful meeting all of you. Much grace to all. Yolanda?
I would like to share my words of such an inspiration it is to be with people that are so dedicated to the arts. The arts mean a lot. It's a freedom of expression. It's a freedom of thought. And it gives people the opportunity to really express themselves. And my word is such an inspiration and thankfulness. And thank you, Richard Skipper, for giving everyone the opportunity to have a freedom of expression. Next person, Cynthia Shaw.
So I think for me, the word is actually give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I think it's very easy for us all to, before we even know it, think poorly or judge or whatever. But I find that giving people the benefit of the doubt actually is a beautiful thing. And I personally try to follow that myself. So I turn it over to you, David.
Thank you. So I'm just going to sort of rephrase that. I think we should treat each other the way we would like to be treated, and recognize that as many different people as there are on this planet, that's how many different points of views and reality they are, and they are all valid. We should celebrate diversity, treat each other with, as Richard says, the grace and the love that we would hope to receive in return. And thank you, Richard, for having me as your guest.
Me back again.
Dolly will never go